Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
When shopping for your family's meals, do you know where you can find Alaska-grown products? Everywhere. They're available at your local grocery stores and farmers markets across the state. Alaska-grown products are fresher and more nutritious, and buying local helps grow our economy. So just look for the Alaska-grown label when you shop, or ask your grocer where the Alaska-grown products are. Remember, Alaska-grown. It's closer, fresher, better.
And it's all Alaska-grown.
The National Weather Service.
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the advisory map here, we've got wind advisories out for the eastern Alaska range here through the passes mainly, and probably west of the Toe Cutoff, and that's out for tomorrow. Southerly winds, which are already increasing here across the Copper River Basin and in the area. They're probably getting up to about the 50-mile-per-hour range in gusts throughout the day tomorrow. And then we still have this flood advisory out here for the Kobuk Valley, Noatak Valley, up across the western Brooks Range area, mostly the mountains southward there, on out toward the northwest coast. And that's for the recent heavy rains over the last several days, and the more rain that's going to continue to fall in that area here over the next day or so. And then the high surf advisories, those are still out for tonight and through tomorrow. Anywhere from 8 to 11 foot seas there in both north shore of St. Lawrence Island here, and mostly the north coast of the Seward Peninsula. And again, those 9 to 11 foot seas will be breaking on shore. So moving on to the satellite imagery, yesterday, lots of moisture here coming out of the Sea of AKwx and into the Gulf, or into the Bering Sea, taking a turn to the northeast there across the interior with a lot of rain from the Pribilofs right on up into the central interior, getting over to Fairbanks and to a lesser extent onto the northeast. Kind of a weak front there pushing along the eastern Arctic coast. That brought some rain up in that area. We had a band of clouds really not doing much there over the Panhandle, clearing over the southeast interior. And today, or one more time through that for yesterday, you can see that cloud band weakening and pushing off. Not a bad day down there, but even more sunshine today as that upper trough kicked off into British Columbia. And that got replaced by some pretty good sunshine starting out the day in the lower to mid 40s in a lot of locations there. Kind of a cool morning. I think it was the coolest since sometime in June. And then with the sunshine, temperatures warming into the 60s, some cases lower 70s. And looks like some high stuff creeping onto the north coast there. But the main rain-producing clouds from Kodiak Island across the western interior areas out to the Seward Peninsula on up to the Brooks Range there. And just a lot of clouds, but not much in the way of rainfall here over the Copper River Basin and north of the Alaska Range in the eastern interior areas. Got low pressure at the surface over the western interior. Back to the west, clearing coming down, drier air flowing out of the Russian Far East there. So better conditions back through here. This weakening front associated with that band of cloudiness pushing south, pushed across the Aleutians during the night last night, and is now south of the area with some clearing skies, or at least partial clearing. A lot of clouds yet around the eastern Aleutians there, but of the VFR variety, and then you can see breaks back out along the southern Bering and into the Aleutians. Otherwise, over the interior, 992 millibar low here over the Kuskokwim Delta, another low there up over the Seward Peninsula. So pretty good rainfall all through this area. Pretty moderate in the 12-hour period from 4 a.m. this morning to 4 p.m. this afternoon. Ruby picked up about 7/10 of an inch in that 12-hour period. And down on the coast here, Togiak, ½ inch. Same thing at King Salmon, Pilot Point, around a ½ inch of rain fell today, with Shishmaref picking up about 4/10 of an inch, as did Indian Mountain. So kind of a wide area of wetting and soaking rains here. Kodiak Island, rain moved in this afternoon into portions of Cook Inlet, immediately the southern Kenai Peninsula. Some light precipitation getting into Prince William Sound. Otherwise dry over the eastern interior areas. And again, those winds picking up here. Higher pressure over the Gulf of Alaska, lower pressure up over the interior. Gulf Canada seeing winds gusting up to 35 miles an hour out of the south-southeast this afternoon. And also, like the upper hillside of Anchorage, seeing gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour. And some pretty gusty winds here, Kodiak Island, up along the Alaska Range, and they'll swing around to the west-northwest, back across the Alaska Peninsula. Northerly winds on the increase there for Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, right down through the Bering Strait. Tin City seeing gusts to 40 miles an hour at times today. And again, big area of rainfall and the sunshine over the southeast coast. So looking at the forecast for tonight, that front pushes by Kodiak Island after midnight tonight. Looks like rain, heavy at times, developing along the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Increasing rain, Prince William Sound, mainly the west side, across Cook Inlet, the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Periods of rain, again, heavy at times, periods of heavy rain, otherwise just flat out rain there, right up into the western Susitna Valley, and then rain up the west side of the state there all the way to the central Arctic coast, definitely on the south side of the Brooks Range of that frontal boundary, right down across the Selawik Valley, coming down into the Yukon Delta to this low center, and then some troughs back out here over the Bering Sea that'll bring a little bit of moisture into the Alaska Peninsula, possibly eastern Aleutians, but not all that much. Otherwise dry conditions with relatively light winds out over the Aleutians, 20 knots or so. And look for some clouds along the coast of the Panhandle, otherwise staying fair tonight with light winds. And then for tomorrow, this front edges its way off to the east a little bit, lines up right over the Kenai Peninsula. So that's a pretty good setup for some pretty heavy rain across western Prince William Sound. Could be several inches there, and then maybe some good rain in the Seward area as well. And again, along the western Susitna Valley, especially up close to the mountain range there down western Cook Inlet. Pretty good chance of rain, occasional rain at times. Again, that gusty southeast wind condition continuing here for the Prince William Sound area. In fact, actually gales out for tomorrow for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, where the southeast winds turn easterly across the sound there. And still, again, those gusty Turnagain Arm winds and hillside winds in the Chugach as well, but lighter wind conditions, but still big area of some light rain here from northeast Bristol Bay across the lower Yukon, Kuskokwim River valleys, northward right up to the north slope, and then back to the northeast there along that frontal boundary as it pushes eastward along the eastern Arctic coast. And some good northerly winds here, gale force northerlies. Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait right down across St. Lawrence Island. Got gales out Nunivak Island on the north side. And again, this trough keeping a lot of clouds around the Pribilofs, but looks like it's trying to hang north of the Aleutians here for the most part. That offshore flow, look for some partly sunny skies here, Shimia, Atka, possibly Adak as well. And along the lee side of the Aleutian Alaska Peninsula there, should be a pretty good day. Big area of high pressure out to the west, extending northward there, all the way into the Arctic, and that's tighten that gradient up through the Chukchi into the northern Bering Sea. And then for Tuesday, some moisture does get into the southeast coast. This high pressure basically holding this front, really weakening as it comes eastward slowly, somewhere near Yakutat, give or take, during the afternoon. So periods of rain, light rain here over the northern panhandle, back along the North Gulf Coast. Still some moderate amounts of rain falling, but won't be as heavy as Monday here or Monday evening for western Prince William Sound, but still moderate amounts occurring. Rain areas of across south central Alaska, again back up western Susitna Valley, the Alaska Range, becoming more showery now back down to the southwest and across Kodiak Island. But again, south to north flow here, carrying a lot of moisture northward, meets up with a landmass and kind of enhances it to just a general rainfall pattern. And that'll continue. More moisture just off the map there. That's going to come rapidly northward and probably increase the rainfall again across southern Alaska during the day on Wednesday. So definitely in a wet weather pattern. Going to stay in it for a few days though, but that's a drier pattern for the Copper River Basin as most of it hangs up across the Coast Range and maybe the southern Wrangles, but maybe some breaks over the inland areas. Definitely north of the Alaska Range there, Tanana Valley up to the Yukon Flats. Could see some sunshine, warmer temperatures, 60s to lower to maybe mid 70s. And look for rain along in advance of that warm front there from about Arctic Village, especially over the western North Slope and Brooks Range area, and kind of thinning out down to the southwest. Still gusty winds, but diminishing, but not ending altogether there from the Chukchi Sea on down to St. Lawrence Island. And rain, fog, or drizzle for the Alaska Peninsula with that weak low in that position. Also pretty light winds all through this area into Kodiak Island in the forecast for Tuesday. Northeast winds pick up a little bit there, especially over the central Aleutians. Probably looking at small craft advisories, 25 to 30 knot winds there, Adak and Atka in those marine areas, and dropping back here with some fog out toward Amchitka on over to Attu Island. And temperatures this afternoon, starting out along the southeast coast, not bad, 60s to 70 at the state capital, 70 degrees this afternoon, same thing there at Metlakatla. Otherwise in the 60s, a lot of sunshine there. Upper 50s, mid to upper 50s, North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound. Palmer up to 61, 57 in Kenai. Homer had 59, 55 with rain in Kodiak, 62 McCarthy, 59 those gusty south winds at Gulkana. Northway up to 66, dropping down to 61 over toward Fairbanks, and to 57 at Tanana. Up to the north, Bettles 55, Fort Yukon 59, and about 49 at Umiat Airfield with, again, upper 30s central western Arctic coast, otherwise some lower 40s either side of that, and 50s here across just about all of interior Alaska with the 40s through the Bering Strait and St. Lawrence Island. Out in the Aleutians and the Bering Sea, Pribilofs mid-50s, mid to upper 50s here for the central and western Aleutians. And also in Alaska, up around 60 degrees today with some 60s there on the lee side of the Alaska Range. Falls past 63 to 62 at Chignik, 50s on the north side, 58 in King Salmon. Lows for tonight, 50s for the Panhandle, upper 40s to lower 50s here across just about all of the interior, south of the Brooks Range to the north, 30s to lower 40s. And for highs tomorrow, much like today, out to the west and also up to the north. Also here over the eastern interior, that's what will be the warmest there, north of the Alaska Range, up to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, upper 60s to lower to mid 70s. And for flying weather tomorrow morning, big swath of IFR here for the Bering Sea, northeastward to the eastern Arctic coast, and also here along east and south of the Alaska Range and Kodiak Island on up into Prince William Sound. Tomorrow afternoon, not much change at all in that pattern here, about the same with good VFR, eastern interior, all across the southeast coast. Lots of marginal stuff back out to the west of this huge area of IFR. And for passes Anatuvik, IFR with Adigan, same forecast. Lake Clark and Merrill look to be IFR. Rainy, still IFR. Windy, IFR in the south entrance. North side, though, VFR. And Isabel, marginal. Lowest conditions, south side. Mentasta stays in the VFR area. And Tanita, occasionally marginal. Portage, IFR. Chilkoot and White, another VFR day coming up for that area. And the freezing levels, about 10,000 feet here across the southeast coast. Late tonight, early tomorrow morning. 6,000 feet here south central Alaska. Otherwise, about 8,000 until you get up to the northwest here. It drops off to about 2,000 feet there along the western Arctic coast. Back up to 10 to 12,000 feet over the southwest Bering. Icing tomorrow above about 8,000 feet here in North Gulf Coast, edging in toward the Panhandle, and with that main boundary up here to the west to northeast. Upper level winds, full of charts showing south to north flow here, so very little eastward progression of that front initially. 9,000 feet, 45 knots through the Strait, St. Lawrence Island. Southerlies up to 25 into the North Gulf Coast, central interior. 40 knots from the North Gulf Coast supporting those gales tomorrow, also at 3,000 feet. And strong winds, Chukchi into the northern Bering, 25 knots approaching the Aleutians. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound to Turnagain and the Matanuska Valley, also from Cape Lisburne down to St. Lawrence Island. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us once again is Eric Stevens, our good friend from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, based up at UAF. And thanks for joining us, Eric. Really appreciate it.
Oh, happy to be here, Dave.
And we love to hear about all the fascinating developments, new and old, and how we're using the tools here, especially around Alaska. And I've got to think that, satellite meteorology right now is a fascinating time to be involved in. If we go back to the first satellite, Tyros, back in 1960, I think is when we got some of those first pictures. Weather and meteorology probably changed that day for a whole lot of people, and it's still changing today, right?
Oh, you know it. Satellite imagery is so important, and it's getting better all the time. Yeah. Of course, never perfect, but especially for us in Alaska, where there are other data sets like radars and weather balloons are so thinly spread. Right. The satellite is the great equalizer because the satellite sees everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got one particular issue in volcanic ash detection.
That's a big deal here. Yeah.
You know it. If you fly an airplane into volcanic ash, your jet engine might just fail. And an airplane without engines is in a world of hurt.
Sure.
So if there's a volcano that goes off, satellite imagery is the way to track that plume of ash and to tell pilots this is where you need to not be to avoid this ash plume. And there's a phrase out there, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Okay.
Well, it turns out, what we're going to discuss today, that the difference is everything. There's a technique called channel differencing.
Okay.
That if you take one piece of the spectrum of what the satellite detects and a slightly different wavelength of that spectrum, even though those two images might look similar, magical things happen when you subtract one from the other. And they reveal information that was already there, but it was hard to find until you did that subtraction.
That sounds like Nicolas Cage in National Treasure when he's got those fancy glasses and he's flipping one up and back and forth. I mean, is this what we're talking about?
Let's go more highbrow and talk Michelangelo.
Oh,
so apparently Michelangelo made some amazing sculpture and someone said, Michael, that's amazing. How did you do it? And Michelangelo's reply allegedly was, well, in that rock, the statue was already in there.
Right.
I just scraped away the unnecessary bits. In satellite meteorology, sometimes there are meteorological features that are in the data, but you can't see it until you combine or difference some of the channels.
Okay.
And we've got a case, good old Pavlov volcano goes off now and then.
Sure.
And you can observe directly a picture of the volcano. Just take it with your iPhone. You can see a volcano going
erupting.
off.
Yep.
Right. But if you want to get the broad view, we need satellite to do that. Now, there are a couple of wavelengths that we can look at. So what's a wavelength? That's the amount of space between a peak in a valley and another peak in a certain part of the electromagnetic spectrum. We're going to look at 12 micron wavelength and 10.8 micron wavelength.
What is a micron?
So what's a micron? Yeah, we're getting into the geek department now. A micron is a unit of length, and it is quite tiny. We're looking at what's called long wave wavelengths.
Okay.
But it takes 25,000 of these microns to make an inch. A human blood cell is about 5 microns across. So when we're talking about 12 micron imagery as allegedly long wave, well, that's relative.
Pretty short for light.
Yeah, it's other part of the, it's just an expression for the spectrum there.
Okay.
So we can look at a 12 micron image, say a satellite image. At 12 microns, we're seeing a heat signature here, really, and the way this color enhancement works is the yellow and the red stuff is high cold clouds down here over the Gulf of Alaska into South Central. And if you were asked, where do you find the volcanic ash plume in this image.
Hey, where do you find the volcanic plume in this image?
It's hard to do. I'm not sure I could find it. If you were to look at this image and just say, show me what jumps out at you here, I'd say, well, nothing really. Well, let's look. So 12 micron doesn't help us. Let's look at 10.8 microns.
All right.
All right, look at that. It's practically the same image. So where's this volcanic ash? Can't find it at 12 microns, can't really see it at 10.8, but when we subtract one channel from the other, magically the plume appears. The color enhancement here highlights the ash in blue.
Wow.
The information was already there, but we couldn't find it until we subtracted one channel from another.
Very interesting.
It's almost magical. Similarly, let's say you're looking for fog up on the north slope. It's kind of a foggy neighborhood.
Sure.
In 11 micron and 3.9 micron, we've got a 3.9 micron image here. It's a big fuzzy blur over Barrow. We can't see where the fog is. But the information is lurking in there waiting for us to reveal it. All we have to do is find that difference between the 11 micron and the 3.9, and then this image becomes this image, and the fog bank jumps right out, and you can see it up there at Barrow. Now, you got to choose the right tool for the job.
Sure.
Like they say, you open your toolbox, all kinds of stuff in there. What do we need for this particular task? If you want to find volcanic ash, we look at 12 and 10.8 micron, find that difference. If you want to find fog, we'll look at 11 and 3.9 micron, find that difference. It's great, different tools for different jobs. Of course, there's always caveats and gotchas, but this fog procedure, it only works at night, because when the sun comes up, it gets in the way. So every product has its strengths and limitations, and in meteorology, the challenge is using the right tool for the right job, and these are some of those tools.
And discovery is still happening, even with meteorology. The weather's been around for a long time, but the tools that are being developed to understand the meteorology is fascinating and still very new science.
It's such a young science. We've come so far, and I'm getting old enough now that I can literally say that, when I was a boy, we didn't have this kind of thing. And there's new things happening all the time. New satellites will be launched in coming years that will have better instruments than ever before. It's an exciting time, and this is so helpful for Alaska because satellites help fill in the gaps between other ways of observing the weather. Satellites, the great equalizer for Alaska.
Yeah, and help so many people stay safe in so many ways every day up here in the last frontier.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, protecting lives and property.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Eric. We love to hear about this fascinating information, and boy, it just makes me want to go watch satellite pictures all day. So hopefully we're inspiring more people to do the same thing, and just be curious. It's a wonderful thing. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back. The sea ice analysis really doesn't show on this graphic here, but less ice around the Barrow area, but still some areas of 4 to 6/10 concentration here, very close to the coast through this area back up and then kind of off to the east of Barrow there. Winds east to northeast continuing for the next couple of days, so this will be tending to slip southwestward or west-southwestward to some extent. And then maybe by Wednesday, those winds might become south and southwest, which may push that off to the north, possibly. And for the coast, inside waters, very light variable winds tomorrow, south 20 for northern Lynn Canal. Small craft advisories developing on the north coast and much lighter winds down to the south. Then for Tuesday, still small craft advisories south to southeasterlies here on the north end of the coastline there, 8 to 9 foot seas. Much lighter down south, southeast 10 to 15 inside waters, and that picks up to 20 for northern Lynn Canal. Prince William Sound, gales, east 35 knots, 10 foot seas. Southeast 35 here for the North Gulf Coast with small craft advisories eastward or westward here to the Barren Islands, 10 to 20 knots there for Kodiak Island. Northeast 15 to 20 for Cook Inlet. Pretty light winds for the inlet on Tuesday and also for Kodiak Island here. But small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast and those easterly winds at 25 for Prince William Sound. Southwest 15 for Bristol Bay, westerlies at 15 for the peninsula, and even lighter winds here from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. For Tuesday, light winds out of mainly the east or east-southeast or variable, but just 10 knots everywhere here with seas running 3 to 5 feet. For the Aleutians, east side there, west-northwest, 20 knots, and that extends out to Adak, 25 knots to Adak to say Kiska, then northwest 20. And then on Tuesday, south winds 25 knots in the far western Aleutians, a sharp ridge through here, so we're northerlies picking up the small craft advisories from Adak over to maybe Nikolsky, then dropping back to 15 to 20 for the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast there, south of Nunivak Island, northwest 20, gale warnings north of the island there, right up across St. Lawrence Island tomorrow, as well as the northern Bering Sea. And then on Tuesday, those drop off. Gradient relaxes a little bit, but still some stiff north winds there, 30 knots from St. Lawrence Island on down to Nunivak Island there, northwest 25, northerlies 25 for the Pribilofs with seas 7 to 11 feet. For the eastern Arctic coast tomorrow, north 15 to 20 knots, and the central coast northeast 20 picks up to 25 knots on the west side. And then those gales from Cape Beaufort all the way down, as I mentioned, to the Bering Strait and southward across St. Lawrence Island. Then for Tuesday, small craft advisories, these winds come down a little bit. They're still 30 knots from Wells up to Cape Thompson. Small craft advisories up to the west side of the coast there, and then easterlies at 20 knots along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. So those seas running at about 5 feet, picking up to 6 feet here on the west side, then up to 10 feet down toward the Bering Strait. And for tonight, again, gusty winds, rain coming into southern Alaska, increasing here, especially on the southern coast of the Seward Peninsula and into western Prince William Sound. Rain changes to showers down here to the southwest, periods of rain northward to the Berks Range and the central and eastern Arctic coast, and gusty winds, Copper River Basin, increasing winds for the eastern Alaska Range, fair for the Panhandle. And for tomorrow, rain heavy at times, western Prince William Sound, back to the northwest here and northward along the frontal boundary, and showers out here over the southeast Bering Sea, but not too bad. And another partly to mostly day there for the southeast coast. And then for Tuesday, we've got areas of rain here up over the northwest in advance of that warm front. Pretty fair, milder conditions down into the Tanana Valley, more rain for the coast.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.